Welcome to the Side Hustlers Society podcast, the place where you can find out more about the hustles that are best for you. And of course, make more money in the process. Elijah has been in the gig economy and freelance space for over 8 years and has done over 4,000 deliveries on Uber Eats. Has several video editing clients, many properties on Airbnb, runs multiple YouTube channels, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. It's his mission to empower people with the tools needed to be successful. Now, welcome your host, the king of the side hustles, Elijah Bilel.
What's up, everyone? It's Elijah with the Side Hustler Society. And today we're going to be rocking solo because I feel like, based on the direction of the show and a few inquiries that I've gotten, y'all really need to know some of the basics of marketing when it comes to lead generation. And I don't mean stuff that comes out just some standard like business textbook that you like learn on college campus. I mean, no disrespect to those guys, but most of them, they have never actually been self-employed for any long duration of time. So they kind of lack any kind of street smarts, if that makes any sense. So I want to talk about that in this show. And some of the stuff we're going to talk about is going to be touched on in later episodes, kind of setting the foundation. But one thing that when I was talking to Roberto Blake, and he's someone that really actually played a big role in influencing me to start freelancing, because he has a video on YouTube called Start Freelancing, like if you're broke. But behind the scenes, I asked him, like, what do you feel is the biggest struggle when it comes to freelancers generating leads? And this is assuming that they've already gotten their trade or skill. And I'm using freelancer, lightly. I know freelancer is associated with a creative professional, like a video editor, a graphic designer, a thumbnail designer, like something that's online. But this really can also apply to maybe a lesser degree to those that are self-employed and are more blue collar in their nature. Like they have skills with their hands. They do more physical labor, like electricians or plumbers. This can apply to them too, but just to a lesser extent. But he said they're afraid to do outreach and they prioritize inbound marketing way too much. And I found that kind of interesting because since I had a sales background, I had come from, hey, you get out there and talk to people to get leads to make sales. And some people, they don't have that initial experience with that. So they're hesitant to do that. On top of that, the terms that he used, some people aren't even familiar with that. He said direct outreach. He said inbound marketing. So that caused me to create something, which I haven't thought of the name yet, to be honest. When I think of the name, I'll let you know. But essentially, it's a diagram, and I'm going to be honest, this is going to be more of a visual show, y'all. So I'm going to do my best to explain it on audio for you, audio listeners. But if you're on Spotify, if you can get Spotify or YouTube, you would really benefit from checking out this show, in video format. But it's going to be a diagram that has 4 quadrants. And vertically, that's going to represent inbound, outbound. Horizontally, that's going to represent online and offline. So before we go any further, let's just kind of define those terms. So like, what does inbound mean in terms of lead generation? Inbound simply means that the leads are coming to you. You're not doing any efforts to generate those leads, or they're coming from effort that you've already done in the past. So a good example of inbound marketing that's pretty popular nowadays is a freelancer may have a YouTube channel set up, right? Talking about the details of their skill or trade and how to do things and how to price or whatever. And someone may email them like, hey, so how much do you charge to do your service? That's an example of a lead that came in using inbound marketing. Now, outbound is the opposite of that. So outbound is when you're going out and initiating contact to get that lead. So if I meet someone at a networking event, say, hey, my name is Elijah, I'm a video editor, and we build all this rapport. And then I prospect them to essentially get them to hire me as a video editor. And we set up an appointment to talk further. Then that's the lead that was generated by outbound marketing. As far as the online and offline, well, I think y'all already know what that means. Online just means that the lead came through online methods, and offline means that the lead came through offline methods. So ironically, the examples already used also fit online and offline. Online being like the YouTube channel that served as a lead generator in that case, and offline being someone I met at a networking event and forged that relationship and that resulted in an appointment. Then I can go ahead and sell them on my services. So in this show, we're going to focus on inbound offline marketing. Now that doesn't need to sound complicated. We're going to break it down because we already kind of broke down the terms, right? So we're just going to put those terms together and give a definition. So inbound means, as we've already established, that it's going to be a lead that is coming to us. Okay. We're not going out to get them. They're coming to us based on work that we've already done. And offline means that the stuff is going to be happening offline, although it can also benefit you online too, but it's going to be more so offline. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Now, what's the key to getting leads in this form or fashion? This is basically a magic word for referrals because that's the biggest, easiest source of inbound offline marketing I personally have ever used and ever seen before. So, how do you incentivize referrals? And referrals don't necessarily always have to be someone that's worked for you and that you've worked with in the past. So you have a past client and they give you a referral, that's great. But referrals can also come from people you've met and they know what profession you do. So they pass your information along to someone else. But how do you facilitate that process? Well, the key to doing this is you need to have a website or a web page. And y'all have heard me say that earlier in this season, but we're going to dive into it deeply. I personally say that a web page is more beneficial for freelancers and those who are self-employed to have some kind of service because a website is more so if you have like more than like 5 services you provide, maybe some products. And at that point, you need different like avenues to talk about different things. A web page will maximize your conversions because there's nothing else for someone to do on that page but the call to action that you set. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through my personal web page for my video editing services, and we're going to break it down. Let's start off by sharing my screen on my personal web page that I use for my video editing services. So when you design a web page, the first thing, you can have someone do this for you, but a web page doesn't necessarily have to be fancy. That's actually one of the pros of going with a web page. It can be nothing but text. Like, let me just scroll down real quick and you'll see like this is nothing but text. Now I like a bunch of pictures on the page. Now if you want to add that stuff, you are going above and beyond at that point, but a web page can literally just be text and it will get the job done. So don't feel intimidated that you got to be some like graphic designer or website designer to get a web page started. If you have the text, which if we're going to be honest, you're going to have to make the text for this anyway, because you need to know what's going to be on your web page, then you're good to go. Now, when a web page is made, it needs to have the following on it. It needs to have your service or services on it in terms of like what you do. It needs to have some kind of social proof to kind of prove your credibility. It needs to have a call to action. So when a potential client hits this page, what do you want them to do from here? Do you want them to book something on the page where they click something and they pay for the service? Do you want them to contact you? Usually it's going to be one of those two. Either they're going to pay for the service here or you want them to contact you so that you can let them know about the services and pick the best one that's for them, etc. It needs to have those 3 things in that order. Going on from there, it needs to have your portfolio there or testimonials. Either one works. Next, it needs to have your rates, what you charge. Now, this part is optional. If part of your selling strategy is to kind of prospect the client in doing the sales process before you talk about the price, and then you bring the price up at the end, you can omit this part. You don't have to put the rates in here. But I will say this, this web page can also act as a filter too. So people that reach out to you are only reaching out if they know that they can afford you because the prices are here. So that's something to think about. That's actually the tactic that I use here. Next, you need a FAQ section. So any questions that people have asked in the past about your service, just add them to the FAQ section. So someone can read that and just really get their questions answered here. So there's no more like objections to them reaching out to you and getting started with your service. Now that was a brief overview of the web page. We're actually going to go through mine and just break down all this. So it's named Elijah's Video Editing Webpage. And it says, hello, my name is Elijah Bilel. I've been in the content creation space since 2017, and I have over 8 years of experience as a video editor. So I'm basically stating the service that I do. As someone who has had 3 YouTube channels and a podcast, I know what it takes to grab an audience attention and keep them visually engaged as an editor. This is my webpage that is meant to answer any questions that you have about my services and the process of working with me. Now, one thing that I could do, I could actually link all my YouTube channels on here, but I didn't because it's not really necessary based on what's coming up in the web page. But you see within the first paragraph, I've already established some kind of social proof. And if they want to see further, they're going to scroll down the web page and get access to that social proof. Picking back up where we left off, below are some of my recent clients and also some examples of my work. I'm available to answer any follow-up questions you may have too. Got to check something on the mic for those of you out here looking at me on the video. If you would like to work with me, you can contact me at, and I give the number, or by email at elijah@financialanatomy.net. Thank you for considering me for your project, and I look forward to working with you. So let's go ahead and break some of this down. I mentioned the social proof and I also mentioned the service, but the call to action that I want the client to do is to reach out to me because I'm going to need to know a little more information about what they want, even though I'm going to be directing them in the direction that they probably want to go in. I personally don't want them booking right here because I want to sell them on a higher package. So they may, let's say they're a podcast owner and they want like 5 clips made. Okay. That's good and all. But if I get them on the phone, I could probably sell them on a 1,500 package where I'll edit their podcast and I'll make clips from them and I'll make shorts from them. And I know I could do that if I get them on the phone. And that's why my call to action is for them to reach out to me. But if I didn't want to do that, let's say I was fine with just them just wanting 5 clips done, I would have the call to action being like, hey, you could pay here, press a button, boom, I receive the money. Then they receive the form that fills out like what I need from them in terms of like the link to the podcast and all that, and we can go ahead and get started. One rule of thumb I will say, for things that are more expensive, a call to action is going to be better if you have them reach out to you because you can implement your sales skills to persuade a transaction versus something that's more low ticket. If it's not worth your time to be like talking about this stuff, then it might be better just to have the call to action where they can just book with you directly on the page. I'll leave that up to you at your discretion. So scrolling down, we're going to move on to the portfolio piece. See some of my portfolio and project examples. Now I have this really, really, really simple. That's the point of a web page, is to be as simple and streamlined as possible. Reason being is that if you want people to start referring you, you want to maximize them referring. And the way you do that is you don't want to have them sell you to whoever they're talking to. You want them to be able to send them somewhere. That's why if you have this set up, they'll just send them to your web page. And from there, all their questions can be answered on this page. So it's real easy for them to refer you because this page does all the work for them. All they got to do is say a sentence or two, instead of them having to actually sell you to them, which they might not really want to do. And it might deter them from referring. So some of my portfolio and project examples. We're going to click on it. And in my particular case, since I'm a video editor, y'all probably know there's several styles of video editing, like editing a podcast clip is different from editing like a video on YouTube for breaking down a credit score, which is different from a commentary YouTuber that's reviewing like a movie and is using like clips from that movie and flashy effects and subtitles and stuff to keep you visually engaged. So each different style of editing that I offer, I have a sample video for, and I have this set up using Google Drive. Now we're going to go through these. So the first one is the video review sample. Hello, my name is Elijah Bilel, and I've been a vegan for over 10 years. In 2016, the Veggie Outers was formed to help more people consume more plant-based foods and get access to education and resources. We've since evolved. Okay, we're not going to watch the whole video, obviously, but I'm just showing y'all because the styles are going to differ as we go through this. So that's an example of a video editing I've done for the video reviews for the Veggie Outers. Gonna back out of this. And next, we're gonna go to video and picture compilation sample. Gonna click on it.
In 2016, when Elijah was 24, the Veggie Outers was formed as a way to encourage more people to eat a plant-based diet and to help them with the transition process. While the group has morphed into something bigger, there are some things about the group that you may not know, even those of you that have been members for years. Here are 9 things that you likely didn't know about the Veggie Outers. I'm your host, Nikki of the Nikki Connected YouTube channel. Join me as we take a deep dive into these amazing facts about the Veggie Outers. Let's get into it.
Okay, that's an example of videos and pictures being used in a creative way during the video. And some of y'all may actually recognize that voice. And if you're watching on the screen, you recognize her. That's Nikki from Nikki Connected. She actually was on the podcast in season 1, where she broke down the science of how to become an ACX narrator and also just voice acting in general. Great reference to season 1. If that interests you, the link to that will be in the description. Moving on, we're going to go to the podcast clips samples. And we got 2 of them, but I'll pick this one. Okay. I think I have this question too, but a lot of people probably do. What's your craziest story that you have to share when it comes to this rental game?
So I don't use my profile picture. I use just a profile picture of someone else who doesn't look like me. And it's a nice young lady. She's our profile picture. And we've had some rather strange things. What?
That's nice marketing. I'm sure that's a heck of a lead generator.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't want these leads. So we had one dude, he booked with us. He didn't send us a picture of himself in a Speedo. Said, my new Speedo. I'm like, bro, what in the world? Bro, I've had some crazy stories, like so many crazy ones now. It's just like, what are you doing? So we of course, had to report his profile.
That's showing the an example of a podcast clip that I'll do for clients. And I actually use an example of my own podcast there. Y'all might recognize that little joke from when we talked about how to be successful as an Airbnb host with a Micah artiste. That's going to be linked in the description as well. The person video sample. So this is literally taken from one of my channels, Financial Anatomy, where I talk about a credit score. In my last video about credit cards, I shared the fact that I used to have bad credit, but through a process, I was able to turn it around. Well, y'all seem to really want more about that process, so that's what this video is for. I went from a credit score of 492 all the way to one of 743. And this video will be explaining the process of exactly how I was able to pull that off. Because I'm glad to say that this process is very duplicatable. And if you're suffering from not really having any credit established because you're young, or if you have bad credit, provided that you're sincere in not making the situation worse if you have bad credit, i.e. making sure you pay future debts on time, then this process will help your situation no matter where you are. So let's get into it. Greetings, everyone. This is Elijah from Financial Anatomy. Okay, I'm going to stop saying this because I'm going to sound like a broken record. All the links to the examples, I'm just going to leave in the show notes and the description, because I know some people are going to be like, hey, what you talked about in that video you showed for like 60 seconds. Hey, I want to know more about it. So if you want to see that, credit score video, and now I've rose my credit score, it will be linked in the description. Everything I'm showing here will be in the description. I'm going to stop saying it, okay? I don't want to sound like a broken record. Next, we have a faceless video sample. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another video by Financial Anatomy, where we help you take control of your financial destiny. I'm your host, Elijah, and we're going to be covering how to sign up for the Cash App in this video. So first, you'll want to check with your family and friends to see if anyone has a Cash App, and if they do, ask them to send you their link so that you can sign up under them and maybe get a sign-on bonus once you send them some money and they can send it back to you. If you don't have that situation, you can feel free to use the link that's provided by me in the description and also in the pinned comment. As you can see on the screen, just click the link and it'll take you to the place to where you can begin the sign-up process. Click on Get the App. Okay, so that's showing off essentially what's called a faceless video. Technically, it's not, because I still appear on screen. It's a picture of me. But in concept, it's not a video where a person has to be on the video-wise, if that makes any sense. And lastly, we have event anniversary sample. What's up, Veggie Outers? It's Elijah here. I'm glad to say that we just got done filming and experiencing our 9-year anniversary for the Veggie Outers. We got to enjoy ourselves, and we got to cover a lot of things that will be coming up in the upcoming year, as well as giving particular shout outs to people who have helped keep the Veggie Outers afloat, whether it be behind the scenes or a little more directly involved. I personally would say that 2024 was actually probably the best year for the Veggie Outers, because we've done things on a bigger scale than we ever had before. This included producing a documentary called The Lord of Veggie Outers that is available for you to view on YouTube. Okay. That's the 9-year anniversary we have for the Veggie Outers. So different from the other like video reviews, because I actually had a videographer filming using a Canon camera, and the quality was just a lot better. And as far as clients go for video editing, this is a great example of if someone has an event, like let's say a wedding, and they have footage they want edited into like a compilation of like clips or videos to store memories, or like some corporate event where they need the video. This is an example of how it would be edited so that they can see what that would be like. So backing out of that, we've gone through all of the samples. We're going to go back to the webpage. And I just want to break down why it was important that I did it that way, because you may have different variations of the service that you do. And that's a good example for me as a video editor, how even though all of that falls under video editing, it has like different niches or styles that would be relevant for the clients to know about. So they can just let me know like, hey, this sample is the style that I'm looking for, and we can move forward with that. So you want to sit down and look at like, what would that look like for you with your service? Now, and I'm going to say this, blue collar workers might be wondering, how does that apply to me? Because I'm a self-employed, like electrician, HVAC technician, a plumber. I'm going to say this, portfolio wise, blue collar workers, it doesn't matter as much. It's more so about convenient, how fast you can get a job done, and do you have at least a little experience. Like one thing that can help blue collar workers out is actually reviews. And that would fall under the testimonials, because remember when I was going through like what a web page needs, it needs to have portfolios / testimonials. So you could get some screenshots of like, let's say Google reviews, and put them on here, and that could serve as your social proof. But I will say this, it's a little extra work for our blue collar brothers and sisters, but if they're willing to do it, you're going to stand out from the crowd massively. If you do the same thing as like what the freelancers do, like what I just did with this portfolio, and you could use Google Drive, you're going to stand out a lot, and you're going to get referred a lot more, because no one's going to go through all that trouble. What you would need to do is you probably need to have someone film you doing some work of doing some work that you're doing for your clients. And when you do a new service, this kind of goes into something we might get into next season, which is content creation, and how you can use content creation to really make money with your freelance business or your just your business in general. But just staying on topic, if you get that footage and then you kind of categorize it the same way I do with the portfolio, in addition to having some testimonials or screenshots or reviews here, you might have too much business. You might have to start turning away business, or it's kind of going ahead of the game. But if you have some contacts that offer the same services, set up a referral program with them. And if you're too busy to handle a client, you send that client to them and you can get paid for it. But that's a little nugget for maybe a future show we'll get into. But y'all see the point with the portfolio and project examples. Next, I have links to my previous clients. So companies that are very public, if you worked with them in the past, you want to be able to reference them in this section. So in that case, you put their websites. But for my case, it's actually better to put their YouTube channels since all of them are on YouTube. So I've worked for the rideshare guy. Y'all probably know that. I say worked and I say previous clients, but it doesn't necessarily always have to be previous. It could also be current clients because I still do work for the rideshare guy. Okay, I'm gonna mute it because I don't necessarily want to get like a copyright strike from from YouTube. Even though Harry wouldn't care and he'd probably just remove it, but why even bother going through all that? But yeah, y'all see the podcast here and the back out of that. And I'm not going to go through all these because it's not that relevant. I mean, the webpage will be linked in the description. So if you want to go through all of them, feel free. The important thing is this just shows, a further way of reimbursing your social proof. Because if someone's really curious, they could reach out to these companies and ask, hey, did he or she work for you? And they're going to say yes and vouch for you. So that's great. Next, we have the rates. Like I covered in the video, like I covered it at the beginning of the video, this part is optional. It really depends on what purpose you want the web page to serve. So this web page, in some ways, for me, is also a filter because my prices, not everyone can afford me. Like, y'all probably know that YouTube and podcast creation and content creation in general, you can do a lot of powerful things with it, but it's also the ultimate domain of what I like to call the wannabepreneur. So people may be talking to you and it sounds all great and they're going to start their podcast, and maybe they do start their podcast, but it's not making any money yet. So we shouldn't really even be having a conversation about me editing your videos yet. And what I could do instead of having to, turn them down rudely or come off as cocky, I could just send them this webpage like, hey, yeah, I would love to work with you. Here's my webpage, and when you want to move forward, contact me. Then they see this and, well, maybe they'll contact me like a year and a half from now when they do start making money, or it'll kind of deter them from wasting both our time. So I'm going to read here. My current rates for the editing of video projects are below. Editing for a podcast episode is $50 per hour of footage. Making a clip between 2 to 20 minutes from a podcast or live stream is $35 per clip. Package deals are available if a number of clips are purchased in bulk. So you're probably noticing that I am giving the rates, but I'm leaving room for me to upsell them if I get them on the phone. Because what I said is up to interpretation, and that can be talked about further. So I could discount a certain amount per clips if they buy like a whole bunch of them. Contact me for more details on these package clips. Making a clip from a video, show, podcast, or live stream that is under 2 minutes in a vertical format. This will be approached as if the clip will be used as a YouTube short, Instagram/Facebook reel, or TikTok. Generally, the rate is $25 per clip and is only included as part of a package deal. For details, please contact me. For non-podcast videos, it's $50 per video for videos that will be 20 minutes or shorter post-video editing. For editing on videos that will be longer than 20 minutes, it is a flat rate of $50 plus a per minute rate of $2.50 of edited footage after the 20-minute mark. Now, this part is very important because people start to get lost in their head when you mention a lot of numbers. So if you end up having to do that for your service, you do need to give an example or two so that they can kind of root it in something. Like some people learn through examples, so just go ahead and give one. For example, the cost of editing a video that ends up being 26 minutes long would be $65. The base rate being $50 for the first 20 minutes, and the per minute rate for the footage after the 20 minutes mark being $15 for the additional 6 minutes. So as you can tell, my rates are pretty straightforward, but there is some room for upselling if I get them on the phone. It's up to you if you want to include your rates in the mix or not. I do because I do like the aspect of my webpage serving as a filter too. But like I said, it's up to you. And if you do include your rates, I would just lay it all out on the table, unless you want to lay some of it out on the table, but you're willing to give like a discount if they have you on retainer for a longer time or they make a bulk purchase. I think that's a great sales tactic. That's why I am personally setting it up that way. Next, we have the FAQ section. Now, one thing I'll say about this section, you don't have to wait for you to get a question to add it. In fact, you could actually Google what are the most frequently asked questions of your service, like FAQs for hiring a video editor, FAQs for hiring a freelance accountant, FAQs for hiring a bookkeeper, and then just you can see all the frequently asked questions people tend to ask. Then you can answer them for your own business or service and then add them to this webpage. So that's an option too. You don't have to just wait for you to get a question and then add it. What should I expect once we start working together? That's a very important one. When a purchase is made, you will be sent a form that will need to be filled out that includes a folder where you can upload the video footage and or pictures that you need edited and or clipped. In this form, you will be asked to select which style of video editing you would like your project to be like from my portfolio examples linked above. For example, if you want your footage to be edited like the podcast clip sample, the editing style for your project would be similar to that video. If you want it to be like the video review sample, the project would have that style. If you have a particular video that you're looking to emulate, but with your footage, you can send me a link to that video in this part of the form also. I'm letting them know what's going to be the process once they spend their hard-earned money with me. Because there's always that doubt in the person's mind, like when they purchase it, like what's going to happen? Are they going to get in contact with me? Like, oh, what's going to happen? Are they going to run off with my money? And you're answering the question for them. Hey, this is what's going to happen. Once you spend your money, you fill out this form. I have the information to get started. Boom. So regardless of what you include in your FAQ, I really would include that probably as your first question, if I'm going to be honest. Scrolling down, next question. What is the next step if I'm interested in using your services? This is what would be the call to action. The next step would be to email me at elijah@financialanatomy.net or give me a call. From there, I will ask what you are ultimately looking to achieve with your channel, show, podcast, or live streaming in general. Depending on what your goal is, I'll make a recommendation on what package or content type, your podcast clips, shorts, etc., would be best to help you achieve your goal. From there, a package will be put together based on your needs. This is one, if you do talk about your rates, I would include it, like it would be mandatory to include. If you don't, I still would include it, to be honest. Do I have to pay first before you start working on a project? Now, before I actually answer the question, while I read the answer that I put, I'll say this. You don't ever want to just do work. Well, blue collar workers, it might be a little different, but that's because they're in person. But even with blue collar workers, you still might not want to do this. Don't ever do the work and then get paid afterwards. You want to either get paid first or get paid half and then half upon completion, because you'll find that you don't want to have to start a separate service among your services called debt collection or just income collection where you've done the work and then, you got to hunt down clients to get paid. And, that's not really fun. Who wants to do that? So if you can just get the money up front, or at the very least, half now, half later, which is a very reasonable request, set that up. I'm going to go ahead and read here. The short answer to this is yes. And I'm going to give some reasons on why I have this set up. Sometimes the project will require me to invest in certain things to fulfill your needs as a client. For example, additional video footage may be required in order to move forward with a project. I would then need to get additional footage for from royalty-free sites, or shoot the footage myself. This can cost money, which would be taken out of the fees that are paid to me by the client for the project. If I haven't received payment, though, I wouldn't be able to move forward with the project. For these reasons, it's more streamlined and faster for you as a client if I receive payment upfront. Alternatively, I'm open to doing a trial run instead of you purchasing, let's say, 10 clips for your podcast. You buy 3 clips at $105. The same can apply for editing videos. This will allow you to see the results you will get while limiting your initial investment. From there, we can move on to bigger projects if you so desire. I'm also open for a first project to receive half the money upfront for a bigger project and the other half upon completion for projects that are over $1,500. Contact me for more details on this option if this is desired. And that concludes my FAQ section. I personally haven't really found the need to include any other frequently asked questions because my closing rate has been pretty good, and referrals have been coming in very nicely. Actually, I just had one come in this morning where one of my clients asked me, was I actually looking for other clients? I told her, yes, I am. And then she asked me what was the best way to get in contact with me. And I told her, I gave her the number and the email she could send people, but I also sent her this webpage. I just sent her the webpage, and the webpage will serve its purpose, right? Yeah. So that concludes like the demonstration that I'm showing for the webpage. And like I said, this is the ultimate source of inbound offline marketing and even inbound online marketing, because that webpage can be working in the background, getting you leads without you having to do much, but once you have it set up. The next thing I want to cover is like, how do you set up a web page? Like, what software do you use? Now, I just made a web page using the software I use for the Side Hustler Society site, which is Kajabi. That'll be linked in the description. But that's a website provider. It provides like a lot of stuff. So you might not want to go with that because all you need is a web page. So let me share my screen again. And honestly, for a little while, before this show, I played around with, okay, I'm changing the format of the screen. I played around with Google Docs because Google Docs is actually very nice. And everything I showed y'all on my webpage is possible to do with Google Docs, but there's some kind of glitch where when someone clicks on a link, there's this message that pops up basically saying why it won't take them to the desired place the link's supposed to go. And that's not going to work because you want to be able to link to certain things in your webpage. So unfortunately, I can't recommend Google Docs right now unless they fix it after I've done this show. If they have, I'll put that in the description and that'll be awesome. But right now, Google Docs is a no-go. So I've looked up some Google Docs alternatives, and we're going to go through some of them. So scroll down. This is document360.com. And it's a blog about Google Docs alternatives. This will also be linked in the show notes. But they mentioned it. Well, obviously they're going to mention themselves. Doc 360. So that's an option. I'm not going to read the whole article. It'll be linked. Nucleino. I think that's how you pronounce it. Microsoft 365. Zoho Work Drive. Evernote. Quip. And Coda. Those are some Google Docs competitors, and they allow you to link. which is pretty critical on a web page, because when you talk about something, you want to show something, you want to be able to link back to the website or the video, etc. Now that that's done, that concludes our podcast on, yes, I'll just say it concludes the inbound offline marketing segment of lead generation, even though we did talk about the other forms too. But if I have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to give this video a big fat thumbs up. It really helps with YouTube algorithm. And I have a question of the day for y'all. How do y'all feel that a web page could best serve you the most in terms of lead generation? Everything we talked about, what really stood out to you on like, oh, I could see how leaving what you do as a service has value to someone that wants to book you. I can see how the call to action is valuable. I can see how this is a convenient way to leave your portfolio in a streamlined way so people can check it out. Leave that in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new. This has been Elijah with the Side Hustler Society. I will catch you in the next video. And like always, be safe and be profitable.
This episode may be over, but your hustling journey has just started. Visit thesidehustlersociety.com to access all links and resources mentioned in the show that will help you on your hustler's journey.